Good evening. This is Luke Revan, Assistant Manager here at East Brandywine Township. I'm addressing you in my capacity as the online moderator for this regular session of the Board of Supervisors. Due to the coronavirus pandemic and to protect the health and safety of Township officials and our residents, the Board is conducting this meeting via webinar. This meeting is being recorded and will be rebroadcast on the Township's YouTube channel. Public notice of this meeting was posted on the Township's website consistent with Act 15 of 2020. The agenda for this meeting was also posted on the Township's website at ebrandywine.org/agenda center and is also visible on your screen. Members of the Board of Supervisors, the Township Solicitor, and Township staff, including myself, are physically present at the Township building. Members of the public can hear us, but your own phones and computers are muted, so we cannot hear you. To enable an organized meeting, we're using the following procedure. As with in-person meetings, I ask that all participants wait to be recognized by Chairman Winters before speaking, and that all comments be directed to the chairman. To be recognized, you must first ask me, in my capacity as the moderator for this webinar, to unmute your audio connection. You may request this at any time via the chat feature located on the left-hand side of your screen. Each person recognized by the chairman should state their name and address before asking a question. I will now turn the meeting over to Chairman Winters.
Good evening. Welcome to the Supervisors regular session, October 15, 2020. And do we have any public comment for non-agenda items?
Yes. A reminder, everybody who's interested, please send me a text. And in the meantime, I'm going to activate Bruce Rawlings. Please stand by, Bruce. Hi, Bruce. Can you hear us? I think we're having a bit of a connection problem. Can we reserve his right to address the board and move on?
I'm okay with that.
All right, Bruce, please stay on the line.
Moving on to minutes and reports.
That you, Bruce? All right, please proceed.
We have September 17th, 2020 Board of Supervisors regular meeting minutes. The October 1st, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting minutes, and the September 2nd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve those three sets of minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to the Treasurer's report.
Okay, we've had this conversation a number of times before, but I just want to reiterate. We're going to do this portion of the agenda not as a consent item, but as each individual report read aloud. All right. Okay.
And Luke, Luke, this is Bruce. Am I on now?
Yeah, Bruce. We'll come back to you.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I'll be quiet.
Thank you.
1938.
All right, I'm pleased that this treasurer's report was a joint delivered by the new treasurer, Lisa Velitis, and myself. She has taken to the training quite well, but I will read the balances.
Well, we don't have to actually. We can approve as we did before, because they were available online. So instead of going through each one, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
No problems.
So, for the treasurer's report. It has been available online. Do we have any report?
No, it's fine.
Do we have any motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And same with the township manager's report, the building inspector's report, the roadmaster's report, Brandywine Police Department's report and the fire report. They're all available online.
Unless Chief's in this,
Oh, Chief is on.
Joe Edwards
Joe.
is here.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Good, good.
We'll figure it out, Joe. Let's just go ahead and we'll approve the other reports first. Hold on one second, Joe. You guys want to make a motion for the township managers and building inspectors and roadmasters?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we approve the permit activity report and the township manager's report.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Go ahead, Joe. With
Did you, do you want to go with the police or you approved him?
I skipped that in that, so we'll
Oh.
go that last.
Oh, okay. Monthly report for the East Brannywine Fire Company. We had 44 total incidents. 32 were fire, 12 were medical. In East Brannywine Township, we had 9 fire calls and 8 medical calls. We had an average response of 20 personnel per call. Phenomenal. Also, trainings. We had 3 training sessions with 26 personnel in attendance. One of the reasons I wanted to speak to the supervisors and the general public tonight is making note of the fire that we had on Horseshoe Pike just down from the pizza shop. Gentlemen, 31 volunteers from East Brandywine Fire Company responded to the alarm. We arrived on the scene to find fire showing from 4 windows, and a resident had been removed with the good work of the police department and surrounding citizens. What I wanted to point out to you guys is that the fire department had the situation under control and operated alone on that scene for 9.5 minutes before any mutual aid companies arrived. In 9.5 minutes, the East Brandywine Fire Department had 3 engines on the scene. We had a supply line laid, and we had 5 attack lines into that structure. And the fire, if you go to our website, there's video of it. It was seen 200,000 times across the globe. And it was just a phenomenal job by the fire department. We're proud of the work we did that night. 2 of the supervisors came out and saw it firsthand. All 3 were notified right away of the fire. And I just wanted to point out, it was a great collaborative effort, police, fire, and mutual aid, but that's the benefit of having a top-notch fire department in your township. I'm done.
Thank you. The police report has been posted online, so we'll go ahead and approve that as well. Motion.
Make a motion to approve both the fire department report and the police report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to old business, the amendments to chapter 300,
I-
definitions.
Pardon the interruption, just as a point of order, we do have Bruce for agenda item 2, which is the non-agenda discussion. Would you, at what point would you like to recognize Bruce, Mr. Chairman?
We can do it now.
Yeah, Bruce, you still there?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
And loud and clear, thank you.
Loud and clear?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for allowing me to speak to the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Chairman, I had the information on this past Saturday that the Board of Supervisors had a special meeting that was posted on Friday the 9th to hire a special solicitor other than our new solicitor, Mark Jonas, and his firm. I'm assuming this is to handle the lawsuit with the Carlino and / Giant versus the Township. And his name is Bruce Clark. And I thought I heard it was going to be $275 an hour for his services. My question is, did Kyle have a chance to have his input on this particular selection? I don't think he was at the meeting. And so I don't see his vote on that. Is this something that Mr. Jonas should be handling, or did we need to get an outside agency, which is an outside firm, which is Bruce Clark? Can somebody give me some updates on this, and plus the the township probably would like to know a little bit more because I didn't see it posted on our agenda tonight, and not many people would know about it.
Well, I believe
Jason, can you help?
those minute meetings will be at the morning session of November for approval, Bruce. So
It was October the 10th. You had a special meeting that was advertised on October the 9th, Friday, just recently, this past weekend. And you hired a special solicitor to handle that other than Mark Jonas.
is that a question?
Well, is that a question? That is completed, and did Kyle have any input on this, or is it just the two other supervisors chose this? Did we get to look at other solicitors besides Bruce Clark? I'm not saying Bruce is not a good person. I'm just asking, how did this selection take place?
Bruce, if I may, the meeting was scheduled, I believe, the first one was at 10 a.m. Correct?
It was anytime after 10 a.m. is what the
Yeah.
original.
So the first email that I saw was for 10 a.m. I could make the 10 a.m. I could not make, it was ultimately changed the night before, I believe, to 1 p.m.
Yeah, it's due to the advertising being 24 hours in advance.
They needed 24 hours. I could not make the 1 p.m. I could make the 10 a.m., but unfortunately because of the 24 hours. So that's why I wasn't in attendance.
So you were aware of this process, what was going on?
Yes.
Okay. But you did not get the vote on it at this point.
Correct.
And why did we need to pick a new solicitor for this particular element? Why couldn't Mark Jonas handle this?
Well, it actually, Mark Jonas can handle it, but due to the history of the matter and distractions to the township, it was a recommendation to seek outside counsel, a recommendation that the board accepted and moved forward with.
Okay, I'm just trying to get an understanding because it was just kind of like all of a sudden it's there. And Kyle, you are aware of what was going on.
I was informed the night before, or the afternoon before. Yes.
So you did not have any say in who was being selected.
I was executive session had taken place prior to the meeting. I stated my input, and honestly, I wasn't there, but I don't know how else to put it. It was probably better I wasn't there.
Okay.
Is there any other questions, Bruce?
That's it on that one. I had a second question. Impact Committee, have we made any progress on getting the first meeting? Because we're getting projects with the Planning Commission for questions about the East Reesville extension and the Plank Farm, Jason, your property, the comp plan, and we need some guidance on where we should be headed. And I think the Traffic Impact Committee needs to step in and start having meetings so we can help make decisions through the Planning Commission or the task force. Do we have any updates on that?
We have not had an update yet from our township manager from the last time that he had reached out to the previous members of the Traffic Commission. But Bruce, I don't believe that we can just bypass the Traffic Impact Fee Committee because they're part of the ordinance for the traffic impact collection itself. So we can't give that power to the Planning Commission, but we do have, I agree, maybe put this on the agenda instead of, public comment for non-agenda, so we can at least get something, started.
Right. I think we need to get started on it. So, I mean, if the people who can't make it, maybe we pick new members to join the committee so we can keep it moving forward. Because it's one of the big issues that affects our township. is the traffic.
Bruce, one second real quick. I just had a question for Scott. What is our quorum for the traffic impact?
It would be 5. And the problem I had was that I only had Andy Heinrich, myself, Linda McNeil, and Nancy Frame, who were able to attend the meeting. So I'm trying to get dates for another meeting.
And even though, I guess the supervisors, and this might be a better question for Mark, the supervisors are not able to be part of that quorum?
No, they could be.
It could be?
I believe we
Yeah,
are.
you were.
Yeah, I didn't
You're
know
a
if I had
member.
a voting membership or if I was just the supervisor liaison.
No, you're a voting member.
Because if that's the case, I mean, I can make any meeting, and I know everybody that Scott just mentioned, including yourself, Bruce. I know that every one of those people is remarkable at attending meetings. So, what I just heard Scott say, including myself, that would be 5. So.
Well, I can join in on that committee if you would like me to. So that's another.
And I think with the chairman's approval here, maybe we'll set up one last ditch effort. I know COVID hit at the last meeting, and it kind of got sidetracked. But if we can, it sounds like we have 5 based off of what he just said, and I would obviously be happy to have your input on that program.
Well, why don't we just, Bruce, if you could fill an application, and Luke, if you could just put it on our website that we're looking for traffic impact commission volunteers, and then we'll let it go 30 days and put it on our December meeting.
That sounds great.
I was going to try and schedule another meeting the latter part of this month or November and try and get it done before the holidays.
Well, let's continue with that plan of attack,
Well,
and in
yeah.
the meantime, let's put Bruce on his resume and submit it and try and get more people in there. Because I think that's a good suit anyway, to try and get more volunteers as well.
Anything else?
Yeah, I think that is
move-
my 2 questions. My 2 questions for tonight, and I'm still on a little over my 3 minutes. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was saying we need to get going, but that's all right, Bruce.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Any other public comment?
I have one other party that's interested in addressing the board for non-agenda items. However, I cannot get them to join us by audio. If you are listening, Jen and Jeff, you may type in text your question, and I can read it aloud to the board, or you can join the meeting using a laptop or a PC computer instead of a cell phone or a tablet. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Moving on back to old business, the amendments to the Chapter 300 definitions, Chapter 399 zoning, forestry, timber, harvest, 399-1021, 399-13 flood hazard district, 399-13, and Scott?
This ordinance the ordinance task force has worked on this ordinance amendment for 3 years. The ordinance amendment is due to a complaint that was filed by Forrester working on the Whitaker Tract, Creek Road, and our existing timber harvest language or logging language in our zoning ordinance was found to be in violation of the acre law. Basically, that's designed to protect agricultural operations. The amendment, as I said, it's been worked on for actually over 3 years with the assistance of the Brannywine Conservancy. Kristen Camp, our previous solicitor, worked on this along with the Conservancy. We've been working with Deputy Attorney General Robert Willig from the Attorney General's office. He's made several comments, several revisions, and I am waiting for him to review this version, which mimics Brandywine Conservancy's version almost exclusively, before we advertise it. What I'm asking the board to do tonight is to allow for the advertisement of this ordinance amendment, so that as soon as I get a approval from Mr. Willig, that we can move forward with this. It's been reviewed by the County Planning Commission. Their only comments were to make sure that it complied with the acre regulations.
You guys have any?
No. Motion is to accept, to advertise.
To advertise.
Yep. I'll make a motion to advertise the amendments to Chapter 300 definitions, Chapter 399 zoning, forestry, timber harvest, Section 399-102.1, Section 399-13, flood hazard district, Section 399-13.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business. Authorize advertisement of the block party amendments to Chapter 105 for public gatherings. Send, please.
Yes, this is not in its form a land use ordinance, so this does not have to be submitted to the County Planning Commission for Act 247 review. The Ordinance Task Force looked at this. We had a request from the Hideaway Farm Subdivision for permission to hold a block party on one of the streets. The street has not been dedicated to the township as of this time. We looked at our large gathering ordinance, and it's, for something like what's being proposed, is overkill. So we came up with this language that's to be inserted in the large gathering chapter, which is Chapter 105 of our land use code, and asking for the board's approval to advertise this ordinance. It's an ordinance amendment. And that would be, but we don't have enough time to get it in for the, I don't believe we have enough time to get it in for the board's work session in November, so it would be November the calendar? November the 19th would be the consideration date. And this has been recommended by both the Ordinance Task Force and the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Jordan, can you say?
I'll make a motion to authorize the advertisement of block party amendment to Chapter 105 public assemblies.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, comments on Euclid Township's comprehensive plan update.
Yes, I've circulated this to all members of the Ordinance Task Force, which includes the supervisors. Euclid Township was one of the municipalities that provided comments to East Brandywine back in 2009 when we adopted our last update to the comprehensive plan, and soliciting comments prior to the task force's meeting, next Wednesday evening. Actually had reviewed about 3/4 of the document. I think it's very well done. There are some misspellings that I found, but content-wise, it's very very comprehensive, and it actually would be a good guidance document for our comp plan update, which hopefully will be successful in our grant application to the county's Vision Partnership Program. We should know something November 10th about the grant application, but that will be, I would like to have people comment, provide comments to me prior to Wednesday evening. So that's simply my request.
Have you made that request to all the planning commission and everyone? Is it on the website?
Yes,
On that end?
it's been requested for the last two task force meetings.
Yeah, so what is customary, you asked about the township's website. What's customary is that our neighbors would ask the board and staff to look at that. They would have their own public review process in developing the comp plan. So they've had any number of meetings in developing that already for the public.
Can't comment on there.
I don't know how much they would appreciate every township adjoining theirs giving them feedback at the public level.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, moving on then to the next is the 2020 police vehicle purchase from Chief Cozy.
Good evening, board. How are you? I just wanted to take a minute and address the board. You've been in receipt of some emails from myself and most recently yesterday from the budget chairman, Ken Adder, in regards to the situation we have with police vehicles and the mileage on some of those vehicles. I think the police department has a program in which we rotate vehicles through a 4 or 5 year program. And typically when those vehicles hit about 100,000 miles, we replace them. And this year we were due to replace 2 vehicles. At the beginning of the year, we weren't too sure where we were in the budget or with our capital reserve. And so as of now, we have not purchased any vehicles this year. After I had an opportunity to speak to Ken and look over our present budget this year, look over what we have remaining in the capital reserve for the police department, and what we are anticipating possibly it was our collective opinion that instead of trying to push the 2020 vehicles into next year and be in a position to have to replace 4, that we did have enough funding this year to go ahead and try and find vehicles and get those purchases in under the 2020 budget. So I have received quotes. We were able to locate vehicles because typically you can only order them between January and around June, July. And then anything you buy after that, you got to find on a lot sitting somewhere. So we have been able to locate 2 vehicles and are in a position to be able to purchase them this year if the board allows. I looking over the numbers, this would be the purchase and then taking estimates on the trade-in of the other 2 vehicles, and then the upfit costs, and that's basing it off of past costs. We would need about $61,000 to complete that before the end of the year. We have $90,000 available on our capital reserve. We also are presently 19% under budget for this year. So it was our collective opinion that if the board approves, we would go ahead and proceed and try to get those 2 vehicles this year and only have to deal with 2 of them next year.
Chief, I was reading Ken's email. It looked like his recommendation was to do 1 this year and then push 2 into next year.
I think he gave you an option of either or. So in other words, we're due to replace 2 next year also. So the question was, do we do 2 this year and do 2 next year, or do we do 1 this year, push 1 into next year, and do 3? And again, we would do another mileage review on these vehicles. So regardless, whatever the board felt would be appropriate, we could do one or we could do two. It doesn't matter. I think their review of the budget was to try and avoid having to do 4 next year, and just overload the capital reserve needs. Ken, I know Ken is on the.
Hey, Chief, I'm on here if you can hear me.
Mhm.
Hey,
So,
how's it going?
Ken, I don't know if you have any other comment.
Yeah, no, just to further elaborate, George. So what I did was in that email was present 2 scenarios. So what that was is reviewing it with the chief was looking at the schedule of all vehicles, looking at the useful life and sort of forecasting it out. So we planned for that. So in that schedule, you see the mileage and age of the vehicles. I did leave out the van just because that one's sort of an outlier. So the ones, basically where that sort of one scenario was I think if you're going to identify the 4 vehicles to complete by end of 2021, I think it makes sense to do the 2 in 2020 and 2 in 2021. One scenario would be to push out one of the vehicles to 2022, which would lead, then 1 for 2022 for 2021, and then you push the 1 out to 2022. I think the overall goal is, if you see, there's 3 vehicles that were 2019. So I think the overall goal is, what I would make the recommendations. We want to try and spread these things out as thin as possible, as equal as possible, I should say. So the idea is if you look at I think there's 10 vehicles in the fleet, looking at the, replacement of, either 1 or 2 a year to try and avoid the scenario we get jammed up, and look at possibly 3 or 4, so we can, look at the most sort of evenly distributed cash outflows on these. At this point, and I'm sorry, what the last comment was, and where I got to, at least with the 2, was there was 60,000 in the original budget, so the capital budget, recognizing those are just sort of target marks. That's where I got comfort with that. So it just really comes down to, the overall goal, looking at the next 18 months sort of view on that.
Okay, so from a budget standpoint, you were okay with two vehicles this year?
Correct. Yeah, and I think if we look at the some of the proposals Luke's going to look at for the capital transfer, I think we have a lot more to talk about on the public works side capital transfer and some of the future costs for that. But I imagine we'll get into a much more comprehensive conversation during the November work session.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Kyle? Anything to say?
I'll make a motion then to authorize police chief to purchase 2 police vehicles by the end of this year.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
May I chime in just briefly? This is a CoStar's purchase, Chief. You're going to use a state contract?
Always.
And are you getting more than one written quote?
Yes, from the different CoStar's dealers, yes.
Thank you so much.
All right, so moving on for subdivision zoning applications, the Euler zoning hearing application, excessive pervious surface.
Mr. Euler, can you hear us? And
Yes, sir, I can.
welcome. We can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want a rehash of the presentation you made before the Planning Commission.
Yes, I can do that for the board. My wife and I have purchased 181 Dallin Forge property last summer. We're in the process of constructing a ranch-style home there. And we've submitted everything in the past few months. The building permit has been approved for a pole barn there. And actually, I have applied to the zoning hearing board for relief for that, to basically move the barn back approximately 20 feet. So we're able to back the vehicles out of the barn and turn around so we can pull down onto Dallin Forge Road. Now, we have also submitted plans to Cedarville Engineering for the simplified stormwater plan that has also been approved, that has increased our square footage that is permissible, in addition to the 660 square feet of moving the barn back, we're also requesting 160 square feet for a small storage shed behind the barn, and they are both well within the setbacks that are required, plus an additional square feet for 3-foot by 2-foot steps at the rear of the door that we didn't rear of the house that we didn't anticipate for the grade there. And actually, the main issue is the safety for turning around so we can pull down onto Dallin Forge Road as opposed to backing down.
All right, so this is a matter before the zoning hearing board. As a matter of courtesy, a similar presentation was made to the planning commission and now to the board of supervisors.
And Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Support.
I would actually prefer that to come straight from Bruce if you're still online. I think we've lost
I'm
him.
online.
Oh,
No,
you're
you
there.
didn't lose me. I was just waking up from my nap. I'm sorry.
Of course.
Bruce, did the planning commission make a recommendation?
Yes, they did. They made a recommendation. I don't have the information in front of me, but we were okay the way Mr. Euler is presenting this tonight. And not having my notes in front of me, I can't say anything more at this point. I was not the chairman that night. Jim Buxellis was. I just got out of the hospital procedure, so that's about all I can tell you.
Planning Commission supported the Euler's request for the additional impervious surface or the relief from the zoning requirement. The R1 district requires not more than 10% impervious surface. With the additional impervious surface by moving the pole building back 20 feet, there's some additional impervious surface for a turnaround, and then the 12 by 14 shed that they want. That's all part of the stormwater management plan. They have a plan for up to 1,000 square feet of impervious surface, and with the addition of the shed and the steps, they're still well within that requirement. Excuse me. So the Planning Commission did support that. The shed issue came up afterwards. Oh, excuse me. And Mr. Euler forgot to mention that to the Planning Commission that night, but still the 168 square feet is still less than the amount of stormwater management facility that they'll have to construct on this site, and it's actually adjacent to the pole building, so all of the stormwater generated by the pole building and the shed can be placed into that facility by piping.
Well, George, do you want to support? Okay, with the recommendation of the Planning Commission, George?
Okay. I'll make a motion to support the Euler's zoning hearing application.
Mr. Euler, you realize that we can't officially do this, but the zoning board will hear it, just so you're clear.
Yes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Euler.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
No problem. Good luck. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Moving on, doesn't appear we have any ordinances or resolutions for consideration. Have you received a question from the Radcliffe about?
Absolutely. I've just promoted Matt Mabry. Can you hear us? To get the ball rolling.
I think I know what the question is.
Right, and I've projected the question
We can probably
here,
address it without hearing the question.
and he is in the process of connecting via audio, but he did use the question feature to pose the question that appears on your screen, which I'll read for anybody who has an audio connection. What is the update on the Ferndale Brookhaven traffic problem?
I believe that our traffic engineer, Andy Heinrich, had done a study right at when the COVID had started with the restrictions and the stay-at-home orders from the state. And I think that we're still waiting for actual official results of that. Anything to add?
Well, that's the agenda items.
We're trying to be able to speak about the traffic, but it's been compressed area. To have
The agenda. I was trying to schedule in September. So if I can get 5 members of the committee to commit to a date, we'll have a meeting. But when I only get 2 members to agree to attend along with Andy, we don't have a quorum technically. So I'm still going to try and get that done, as I said, the last week in October or before the Thanksgiving holiday.
And has Andy was going to do a study as far as, did he conduct that study?
He did. He had, his equipment was in use, and I'm trying to remember, I believe that he did the study in mid-February. It's basically, it's traffic counts and speed. And the police department had already indicated that there were not, the speeding was not an issue. The traffic counts, that's their primary concern. Still, some of these other traffic improvements can't change that unless we're going to make Brookhaven and Brookhaven Lane one way, and that means it's no longer permissible for liquid fuels money, and that's more difficult than just saying it's going to be one way, because that's if it's one way, that means one way for everybody.
Well, I think their concern is that they don't want everyone driving through the neighborhood. So I think that we need to look at other options as well, maybe blocking it off at that during the woods, that little section between the woods, so there's no through traffic, or putting no through traffic signs up or something at North Covington Road. But if we can get that back on the radar to try to get some answers to Ms. Radcliffe and her husband, and Ms. Mabry as well, and that homeowner association, that'd be great, because I believe that is coming up, their meeting right around the holidays last year, and so it'd be nice to get them something before this year.
We had a little bit of an audio disturbance when this first go to the subject, and I do believe that Matt and Jeff's mic is now unmuted. Well, this is just reason number 300 that I would like the pandemic to be over. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
If you guys do have questions regarding that, you could email the township as well, board of supervisors, or our manager, and we can address the questions in an email format once we have them. Great. Is there any other? Anyone else that wanted to comment under?
I have no further public comment.
Notices, there was an executive session, the Board of Supervisors held on October 8th to discuss personnel matters. And we did have a special meeting that was advertised this past Saturday at 1 p.m. Those minutes will be available at our November work session. And the board will be meeting an executive session directly following this meeing. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.